So once again, welcome to our Lenten Recollection. Now let us proceed into the second place that we are going to visit and meditate. And by the way, the following points that I'm going to share with you are coming from the book of Father Florencio Segura of the Society of Jesus. And the title of the book is 8 Days of the Spiritual Exercises. So now, let us continue in our Lenten recollection, the road to the hill, and that is the second place, Calvary. As we all know, between the Garden of Gethsemane, and the hill, between the garden and the hill, was the trial of Jesus. Again, the trial of Jesus to different personalities in different places. The tribunals he went through were part of the road he traversed going to the hill. There are different tribunals that Jesus passed through before reaching Calvary. Now, what are those tribunals? Let us journey now with Jesus in the different tribunals. And as we witness Jesus experiencing or passing through all those tribunals, let us also reflect on our lives. In what particular tribunal am I right now? The first tribunal is the tribunal of envy. The Sanhedrin. The Sanhedrin, the supreme Jewish legislative. And he is also the supreme in the judicial court. The Sanhedrin meets hastily to judge the Lord. Inggit ang nagtulak sa kanila para ipapatay si Jesus. It is the competition. And in our own experiences, who are these people? They are the people whom we encounter in life so often. Those who hinder us, those who limit us, those who criticize us, those who do not encourage us to work, those who do not assist us in our difficulties, but rather rejoice in it. They are those people in our lives, the Sanhedrins of our lives. Because it is a competition, because of jealousy. Hashtag inggitero, inggitera, suyaan, jealous, envious. The second tribunal is this: the tribunal of loneliness. A more painful tribunal than the previous one. Why? Because it is the tribunal of our circles, of our friends, of our family, of our own group, and of those who make up our community. The tribunal of loneliness. What is this all about? Well, Peter followed Jesus, yet denied him 3 times. He was abandoned by the group which he formed. He was abandoned by the group whom he loved so much. He taught them, he loved them, he cared for them, he fed them. And yet in the end, they abandoned him. The tribunal of loneliness. So often in life, we feel alone too. Because the people we love sometimes, they leave us alone. The people in our lives, they leave us alone when we need them the most. They abandon us. They move farther away when we need them. And so the tribunal of loneliness that Christ experienced himself, we pass through this tribunal as well. Hashtag iniwan, hashtag nangungulila, hashtag gibiyaan, hashtag abandon. And the third tribunal is the tribunal of selfishness. Pilate. Pilate is not a bad person. He does not even want to do evil to the Lord. However, Pilate allowed himself to be pressured. He allowed himself to be conditioned by others. He gave preference for his political and personal interests before justice. He knew what is just. But in the end, he chose his political interests. He chose doing bad, not defending what is right for his political interests. The tribunal of selfishness. We also pass through this tribunal. When we see others get their benefit, their personal triumph at our expense. That other people are using us for their personal interests. The tribunal of selfishness. And the fourth tribunal is the tribunal of unimportance. And this is Herod. In the Gospel of Luke, chapter 23, verses 7 to 15, Pilate realizes that Jesus is a Galilean, and therefore under Herod's jurisdiction. Since Herod already happened to be in Jerusalem at that time, Pilate decided to send Jesus to Herod to be scrutinized. Christ the Lord had been transformed into a clown. At this moment, Christ did not speak. He remained quiet. In front of Herod, he remained silent. Herod and his soldiers mocked Jesus, put a gorgeous robe on him as the king of the Jews, and sent him back to Pilate. We also pass this tribunal when people make us feel that we are unimportant. You just achieve, nakuha mo lang, nakapagtapos ka ng ganitong kurso, hindi yan kailangan, dyan ka lang. When people make us feel that they are not interested in us, we are reduced to silence when what we bring and what we say do not interest them anymore. Matanda ka na. Pwede ka na magpahinga. You need to rest. And we will look for another one. A young person who is capable of doing much more. The tribunal of unimportance. That after you have done after all the things that you have done, your superior maybe is considering you, you are not anymore important. Just go. The tribunal of unimportance. And the last tribunal is the tribunal of ingratitude. Ingratitude, ungrateful. And who are these people? The people whom Jesus healed, whom Jesus taught, whom Jesus gave something to eat. Why? Because when the moment of truth comes, they prefer Barabbas. They were fed by Jesus. They were taught by Jesus. They were loved by Jesus. But in the end, they preferred Barabbas rather than choosing Jesus. The tribunal of ingratitude. Sometimes in our workplace, we feel that they, our superiors, have not appreciated us enough for what we have done. They have not valued our work sufficiently. My dear friends, these are the 5 tribunals that Jesus himself passed through. First, the tribunal of um, again the first is the tribunal of envy. The second is the tribunal of loneliness. The third one is the tribunal of selfishness. The fourth one is the tribunal of unimportance. The last tribunal is the tribunal of ingratitude. Envy, loneliness, selfishness, unimportance, ingratitude. These were the 5 tribunals through which Christ the Lord was taken. These were also the 5 tribunals through which we pass and through which we either suffer with Christ or through which we inflict another pain to Him. And so we can say that the experiences of Christ, the experiences of pain, the experiences of suffering, all those things are our experiences as well. And so we could say that Jesus is not away from us. That Jesus understands us. If you're suffering now, Jesus understands you. If you are in pain now, Christ is also in pain with you. And so, always remember that Jesus is with you all the time. Not only in your joys, not only in your happiness, but as well as in your sadness, in your suffering. And so the garden and on the road to the hill, our first and second encounter with Christ the Lord in the garden and on the road to the hill are not only basically about suffering and pain. Yes, I have told you that in those places, Christ is somehow suffering. But in those places as well, especially on the road to the hill, it can also be about the people who compassionately and mercifully given themselves to ease the suffering of Christ the Lord. Let us also journey with them in their journey with Christ the Lord. Because there are 3 attitudes of compassion that Christ himself experienced on the road to the hill. And what are those 3 attitudes of compassion? First is the lamentable compassion. Second is merciful compassion. And third, it is the efficacious compassion. First, lamentable compassion shown by the women of Jerusalem. The women of Jerusalem, do not weep for me, weep instead for yourself, Jesus said. In the great number of crowds, there were these women who showed their empathy with Jesus. They made their own share with the suffering of Christ. They suffer emotionally with Him to empathize with Jesus. And hopefully, that in our experiences, if there are people who are sad, who are in pain, we are always there to empathize like the women of Jerusalem. The second one, merciful compassion, Simon of Cyrene. To carry the cross, to carry it as Christ did. Simon of Cyrene was at first obliged to carry the cross of Jesus. He showed obliged compassion at first, but it becomes merciful compassion as he carried the cross the way Christ did. Merciful compassion, my dear brothers and sisters, is taking the crosses of others and bearing it on your own shoulder as Simon of Cyrene did. Merciful compassion. Now, who are those people around you right now who are in need of your help? Who are in need of your shoulder? Who are in need of your hands? Who are in need of your heart? Who are in need of your ears? Journey with them. Show lamentable compassion or merciful compassion. And the last attitude of compassion is efficacious compassion. Veronica was not in the scripture but belongs to the very old traditions of the church. This woman who approached Jesus to clean his face. Diba in parishes? As you can see, there is an image of Jesus in a cloth. And it was Veronica who wipes away the face of Jesus, who wipes the face of Jesus. Veronica is a symbol of efficacious compassion that gets closer to the face of Jesus. It seeks the face of God. It tries to clean the face of others and consoles others. My dear friends, those are the three attitudes of compassion. If there are people around us who are suffering, hopefully, we can show them compassion. It could be lamentable, merciful, or it could be efficacious compassion. My dear friends, to encounter Jesus in the garden and on the road to the hill is to be able to identify our suffering with the suffering of Christ the Lord. To encounter Jesus in the garden and on the road to the hill is to accompany him in his suffering. Jesus is with us in our struggles. Amidst facing this coronavirus, this pandemic, there are a lot of people who are suffering. And always remember that Christ is always with us. And so, my dear friends, you allow Jesus to accompany you in your suffering. Ask yourself, do you allow Jesus to accompany you in facing life's challenges? I hope so. Let me end our recollection with a story. When Pope Francis visited here in the Philippines, there was a child who asked him in Tacloban why he is suffering. Somewhere in Manila, a child asked him why he is suffering, why he is being left alone by his parents. And then Pope Francis was not able to give a straightforward answer. Instead, he pointed to the cross, to the crucifix. God knows our suffering. That is why we can be assured that we are not suffering alone. Remember this, brothers and sisters. God knows our suffering. That is why we can be assured that we are not suffering alone. Because He Himself experienced suffering. Thank you so much, Qualfon Dumaguete, for inviting me to journey with you in your Lenten recollection. Hopefully, you can continue the journey with Jesus. Hopefully, that you will always be assured, that you can always feel an assurance that Christ is always with you.